It's also important to understand that every time somebody works hard at doing something that's difficult and they feel successful or they feel rewarded, there are some changes that occur in the brain. The axons and the neurons get thicker, the number of dendrites or connections increases, so we're actually changing the structure of the brain. But it doesn't happen overnight. And we're kind of funny about behavior as adults sometimes. We tend to think that, we should be able to give a consequence and get upset for our kids when they're not successful or they don't do well, and they're going to get it, and then that's going to change it, and that's going to be it. And then when they come back the next day and they do the same thing again, we get really upset. But think about it like this. If somebody has a stroke and they become hemiplegic, that means that we know that that part of the brain that controlled that half of the body is dead. The oxygen was cut off, that brain tissue is dead, it isn't going to come back to life. Well, our physical therapist wouldn't come to the house to work with grandma and say, well, I went in there and, I told her to get up and get moving and she just threw stuff at me and cursed. So I'm giving up, that's it, I'm done with her. No, we know that we're going to keep trying physical therapy, we're going to coach her, we're going to cajole her, we're going to, try every way that we can think of, and not just over the first week, but over months or maybe 6 months or a year. If we're lucky, grandma's going to go from her wheelchair to a walker to her cane to hopefully walking independently again. So that means that some other part of the brain took over that function. So most of the time when children have something like ADHD or autism, when they're having differences or difficulty with their behavior, there's usually some differences neurologically with those children too. But it doesn't mean that they can't form new connections. And that means that every time we reward them for doing well, we're changing the structure of their brain, we're making that neural circuit that underlies that behavior get stronger, and we're making it a little bit easier for them to be a little bit more fluent with performing the behavior we want in the future. And eventually we'll be able to fade the reward. Eventually they will learn to feel good, they will become conditioned to doing what is appropriate because they'll feel good about doing it without the external reward. It's just kind of like classical conditioning, and most people have heard of Pavlov's dog, right? You ring the bell and they put the meat powder on the dog's tongue and then he salivates, and after a while they just ring the bell and they don't have to put the meat powder on and he salivates anyway. So what we're doing when we're rewarding kids is we're not bribing them. A bribe is when you give somebody something to do something that's illegal or unethical. We're rewarding them for good behavior. And usually when I ask adults, they can understand it this way. If you went to work one day and your boss said, you know what, you've been doing a really great job, but we're out of money. But it sure would be great if you kept showing up to work anyway when we don't pay you. Would you keep working? No. So a lot of the children who struggle don't get the same sort of intrinsic reward out of doing what is expected or is appropriate. So I think it is okay, therefore, to use external reinforcers. And I've been doing this for 24 years, and I've never seen a kid get to 14 or 15 years old and insist on getting a treat or a toy every time they do well. They will grow out of that.